There's no smoking on airplanes.
I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
If you like that, I'll have to report you to the FAA.
Stacy, did you know that in 1969, when smoking was allowed on all flights, we put a man on the moon?
I had no idea.
And it starts with ashtrays, and it ends with all of our precious freedoms being stripped away. But we don't have to take it. Like Rosa Parks and David Lee Roth when he left Van Halen, we can say enough injustice. We can smoke one for America!
Who are you?
I'm done ready. And I got the goods. You want some cars sold? We'll be there. We got a dealership in the ICU. 211 cars getting suntans on the lot.
Don, I don't mean to complain, but it's been a year and a half since I've been home. And I'm 90% sure I left my front door open.
It's July 4th weekend, everybody, and we're going to war. Don't even get me started on Pearl Harbor. We are the Americans, and they are the enemy. Never again!
Never again! Never again! Let's get him!
Alligators? Who brought alligators?
Don Reddy sure does put on a show.
These people are excited about the savings.
The goods. Live hard, sell hard.
I think I made a sale. Andy wants to pay in cash. Non-sequential, unmarked bills neatly packed in this canvas bag.
Well, that's a bank bag, Teddy.
Oh, my eyes! My eyes!
Welcome to They Called Us a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Called Us a Movie. We are part of the Main Damie Network, and to find more from us, check out the website at themaindamie.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Main Damie. We're also now a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Called Us a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio, and with me as always is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, friends.
Hey, how you doing? No bit this week. It's just I had a good laugh about the town this movie set in Temecula, because it was part of a really weird Twitter situation where a guy threatened to fight another guy in Temecula over Kobe Bryant. And it was just weird to me. As soon as I saw that, I had a more heartier laugh than probably anybody that saw the setting for this movie. Just a funny thing I had in my head that had nothing to do with our discussion of this movie, so I thought I'd get it out in my bit period.
Oh, great. Well, maybe next week the listeners will get a bit, but at least Mark's happy this week.
Yeah, that's all that really matters in quarantine.
Right, yeah, at this point it's all for one and one for all, really.
Go fuck yourselves, listeners. Mark remembers something. So yes, this week we did a little something differently. I think we sort of did it last week, but we're going to officially kind of go about it this way for the foreseeable future. I'm letting these guys, we're going to kind of go around the table. So I guess next week is my week, so get prepared for that one. So we're letting each of the hosts have a week where they pick which movie that we're going to do. And despite my best attempts to not kind of sway them, I always almost do, but then I just kind of take a step back. It's like, nope, it's your week. You pick it. And this week was Dan's pick. So, Dan, do you want to introduce the movie?
Sure. What an introduction, by the way. I have to step back because I don't trust you guys, pretty much, is what you're saying right there.
No, because I think I was like, well, I don't know. Like, there was a couple of movies that you had tossed up, and then I was giving my opinion, and that's not really what I want to do for these episodes. I want them to be fully your choice. So that's why I took a step back and was like, whatever you want to do.
I appreciate that.
There was that one movie, Man on a Ledge, where I was like, well, I'm not sure if that fits, because I've never seen the movie, but from what I've heard, it's like that's like the one time where people are like, well, Sam Worthington was okay in that movie.
See, so that's my mistake. I hear or I see Sam Worthington, I automatically equate it to terrible.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this can't be good. He's in it. So, egg on my face for picking the one movie.
I did the same thing with Gerard Butler.
More often than not, you're right.
This was your week, so
Yes. So before we introduce the movie real quick, just wanted to give a shout out to some of the friends of the podcast. The intro music that you heard at the top of the episode is brought to you by a good friend of ours, Dave. You can follow him on Instagram at dcat888. If you want some music made or you want to listen to his music, he's a very talented musician. Follow him there. And another good friend, our friend Jim, has been providing us with some social media content. You could follow him on Instagram at Vegan Cook. So yeah, if you need something made up, message him. He'll be more than happy to help you out. So thank you guys very much for your help. We greatly appreciate it. Moving on to this week's movie, I chose The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard. I always get those two confused. And the reason I chose it was because Anthony and I have seen this movie in theaters, and I remember when I saw it, it had so much promise in it because it has such a good cast, and I left really having to justify liking it. Like, I was almost talking myself into, well, that was really funny, that, you know, I really liked it. And after watching it again 10 years later, it does not hold up.
Yeah, we might be the only two people in existence that saw this together in theaters and still talk to each other.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure this has ended many friendships.
Mark, it sounded like you had something to say.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I that was exactly my sentiment when I watched this movie, is that it felt like it was a movie that was like there was something like, you know, like, it should be good. Why isn't it good? You know, sort of deal the whole time watching it. It just felt like one of those movies that, you know, had the cast, just switch out a few pieces, maybe slightly more time to write it or something, and you might have a movie that's on par with some of the comedies around that time period. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't hold up just by the 2020 lens on certain things. But yeah, the whole time it was one of those where I was like, I really wish this movie was better.
Yeah, as Dan had mentioned, we had both seen it in theaters with a friend of ours, John. So it's quite an accomplishment that, you know, 3 people watched it together based on the box office numbers. This is the first time I've seen it since seeing it that day, and it's not as bad as I remember, but it's still not quite good. I remember it being like awful. Like, if you asked me one of the worst movies I've seen in theaters, this probably would have been on a short list of movies. It's not great. There's a bunch. It's bits and pieces of movies that are better. Like, you could kind of clearly see, and we talk about it off podcast, where like Step Brothers came before this, but it seems very influenced by it. It almost seems like this could have been a rough draft of Step Brothers, like pieces of this that turned into a much better version of this. But yeah, there's things of this movie that work slightly, but overall it's just doesn't come together.
Yeah, this movie definitely has the Step Brothers stank on it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, especially with Catherine Hahn.
It has the same production company, right? Gary Sanchez?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you might be right. I wonder if this movie started out as like a script for Step Brothers, or like, I'm trying to think. It has a lot of Anchorman 2, or not Anchorman 2, just Anchorman feeling to it as well. So it definitely follows in the wake of those.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it was a movie trying to, instead of be its own movie, fit in with those movies in terms of tone and style, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what made those movies stand out is that even though they were written by basically the same conglomerate of people at that time, they all felt unique, at least the main ones that broke through. And then I guess The Goods would fall into the category of those people trying to chase that high of that first one. In the wake, those late 2000s, early 2010s back then. But yeah, it just felt like a movie that maybe had some leftover jokes from all the writing they've had, and they tried to mash it into a movie, or it was something that the production, like maybe bosses or something, was like, we need to get something out in a year, we need to ride this wave, and they just slapped this together, and then just said, hey, it's about car salesmen.
I think I think they flew too close to the sun on this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was just looking up the writers. It's a writer team of Andy Stock and Rick Stempson, and the only other credit they've ever had. This is, ever since they wrote The Goods Live Hard Sell Hard, was Balls Out, Gary the Tennis Coach from the same year.
And that's it. They haven't had work since.
Not since. Yeah.
I guess they figured out writing isn't their strong suit.
Yeah. And it was it must have been a direct-to-video movie starring Sean William Scott and Randy Quaid.
I was gonna say, if you had asked me who would star in that, Sean William Scott would have come to my mind. I swear to God.
Well, it's kind of like Mr.
Sean William
Woodcock,
Scott.
right?
Yes.
It's like a precursor to Mr. Woodcock.
He's also in a movie where he's in a grocery store. He's like a grocery store manager. So it just sounds like the most boring movie that you can have, and Sean William Scott deserves to be in it.
That's true.
Yeah, man.
But you know what? He probably could have done well in this movie, in The Goods, Sean William Scott.
Yeah. Are you talking about the promotion from 2008?
Yes. Yeah, he's just like a nobody, and he's vying for a promotion at the grocery store. And is John C. Reilly in it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one he's vying for it against.
It's almost like the Dane Cook movie where he works at Walmart, essentially, right?
Employee of the month.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
One's the Kirkland version, I guess. I don't know. I guess it'd be the promotion. But yeah, I'm disappointed in myself for having tried to like this movie when I first saw it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the company I was with.
Sure.
No, you too. Because I do remember distinctly leaving that movie and you not liking it. And then John and I were like, why not, bro? Why didn't you like it, man?
So it was the opposite. It was like, oh, Anthony's just an asshole, so
he didn't
like it.
Well, we always, and to this day, listener, we still do this to Anthony, where he's a film snob in our eyes. So if it was perfect example when John had watched Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I said, well, you better like it or else Ant's not gonna like you anymore. So that's our way of like, well, this movie's too good for Anthony. It's not the movie, it's Ant.
However,
essentially.
Yeah.
About
there's someone else on this podcast you need to worry about.
Mark, you like that? I didn't know that.
I was the someone who made it the movie #1 movie of 2012.
Yep, not me.
If you had given me two choices, both choices would have been Anthony on that.
I absolutely love that movie.
I've never seen it, so I can't really judge it. But most of the time, if Anthony loves a movie, I judge it like, oh, it can't be that good then.
You knock it down a point.
I do.
How good can this be?
Yeah, it happened.
Around here, we call it the Dunkirk effect.
That was the closest Anthony and I have ever gotten to an actual argument.
Yeah, so this movie, full title, is The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard.
Well, you know it's a great comedy if it has a colon in the title.
Yes, a colon and a comma.
Yep.
Directed by Neil Brennan, who's only theatrical film directed, but you might know him as Dave Chappelle's writing partner. He's a co-creator of Chappelle Show. Anytime on that show Dave Chappelle mentions Neil, that's who he was talking about. Neil Brennan has an IMDb score of 5.8 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 27%, and it stars the absolutely all-star cast of Jeremy Piven, Ving Rhames, James Brolin, David Koechner, Jordan Sparrow, Catherine Hahn, Ed Helms, Ken Jeong, and Rob Riggle. Budget of $10 million. Box office 15.3. So when all said and done, it basically broke even.
Did you mention the most important star in the movie?
Josh Brolin's dad, right?
No. Alan Thicke.
Alan Thicke. He's in my notes, but I did not mention him here. Rest in peace, Alan Thicke, by the way.
Yep.
Anybody else dead? Oh yeah, the other guy's dead.
Well, to be honest, I was like, this is gonna sound terrible. I thought Ving Rhames was Michael Clark Duncan.
I made a mistake last week when we talked about Armageddon.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So that's 2 weeks in a row where we swapped Ving Rhames and Michael Clark Duncan.
This was Charles Napier's last film role before he died.
Probably for the best. He was terrible in this movie.
But I haven't mentioned Tony Hale,
Yeah.
Mentioned Wendy Malick,
Craig
Noreen
Robinson.
DeWolf. Yep, Craig Robinson's in this. Man, it's an absolutely all-star cast. Christian Shaw has a small role. Brian Callen's got a small role. Yeah, no, it's a lot of really talented people coming together to make a middling comedy that no one... Like, how many people you think have watched this on Amazon Prime?
85.
Right. And we're 3 of them, right?
Right. Including us, yes. 85.
Like in it, so like, but like starting with old school to, I don't know, what's like the last great comedy? Get him to the...
Do you want to say that was pretty much the end of it?
Yeah,
like maybe
that
This
might
is
be.
40. That's not really a comedy though.
Let's say Get Him to the Greek.
Okay,
It's
that's
like
fair.
the end of that era because
Right,
it's like
the,
the sequel to a better movie.
Yes.
Right. So like the Judd Apatow era, pretty much. This is towards the bottom for sure,
Yeah.
if not the bottom.
Yeah.
Although Get Him to the Greek is down there as well.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're in the same, like when it was Get Him to the Greek, because I just feel like 2010. So yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So Get Him to the Greek is the end of that era. Yeah, but like absolutely classic movies, and a lot of the same people are involved with it, and this is just, I mean, even on the poster that I'm looking at on IMDb from the guys behind Talladega Nights and Step Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Talladega Nights, but I like Step Brothers. But
it's
yeah.
in the same vein of comedy where
Yep.
it's just over the top ridiculous. A lot of as Mark was saying, I don't know if it was on the recording or prior that there's a lot of ad-libbing. They kind of just let the comedians do their thing. So, and I do get a sense that they had that here, especially with David Koechner. I feel like they kind of just give him free rein to just spew random bullshit in movies. And like, as I was saying before, how there's some Anchorman feelings. He essentially plays Champ Kind. There's a lot of characters who play the same character, as you were saying.
Yeah. There are, I feel like there was a lot of ad-libbing with like Craig Robinson in some scenes, because a lot of it's ADR. Like there's the whole riot scene where he's basically commentating the riot scene.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
obviously ADR.
Oh, thank God for the cops.
Yeah.
Right. I never thought I'd say this.
I'm sure Catherine Hahn and Rob Riggle did a lot of improvising together.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is our lead actor is not really known for that.
Yeah, I think I'm imagining this is coming off the tail of Entourage.
Yeah.
Where
I think this is the heyday of Entourage as far as I remember.
I think Entourage was either ending at that point or it was about to end. But I mean, his character, I give him credit because Ari Gold was a good character on that show. It was probably my favorite character. So I think they just wanted that character sort of, but just the loudmouth, very brash, obnoxious, confident Jeremy Piven, which is pretty much what you get no matter how you ask him to act. He's just going to be a loudmouth, brash idiot.
This is our second Jeremy Piven movie.
I was just going to say that, as we saw in his last movie that we covered, So Undercover. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I was just going through my head. We can answer this question in full at the end. But I was thinking there were like multiple people in this movie, or the big cameo, probably that could have played the lead role better than Piven.
We can get into it right now. Who do you think? You name an actor. Put a better actor. Like who makes this movie better in this role?
To be honest, Paul Rudd.
Okay.
I like Paul Rudd. That could work.
But I went this. My point was being in this particular cast. You put Will Ferrell in that role, and I think it's a better movie.
Yeah, I think Will Ferrell. You have like the Anchorman sort of narcissist, but a buffoon at the same time.
Yeah.
Where you have Jeremy Piven and he's just a narcissist.
Right.
Yeah.
I think again going off of the same actors that have been in these movies, you could probably put Jason Segel in there. He's way funnier.
Sure. I was gonna say Bradley Cooper at this moment in his career, just doing The Hangover. He's younger.
Hasn't really hit the big time yet. Like he's big, but not Guardians of the Galaxy big.
Right. Yeah. No. He's The Hangover big. That's really what it is. That's his biggest movie at this moment is The Hangover. Yeah. Because he could play an asshole really well, but he's still likable. I think that's one of the things that Jeremy Piven just does not bring to the table.
He's not
likable. Even as Ari Gold is like, he's a guy that you love to hate, and you're just like, and you hate to love.
Yeah.
But I think that's the stamp of that character, and why he pretty much rocks it there, because
absolutely
he's an asshole, and he's supposed in that environment. That's how you survive, essentially. As what was he? He was the talent agent, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he was a side. He wasn't the lead. He was a supporting character. And it's like, you don't have to love him, because you love what he brings to the table. He's the guy that's gonna fucking get the job done.
And also,
go ahead.
He was also acting circles around a really mediocre main cast.
Oh yeah, no, he acts circles around that entire cast of Entourage.
Yeah, like those guys, I have no clue how they became so famous.
The main downfall for him in this movie is that I don't think he has any chemistry with anybody else in the movie.
No,
like all the other characters, when they interact, like you can see the way they, even if they're mostly ad-libbing, like we bring up Rob Riggle and Catherine Hahn, those scenes, you could see how much fun they were having, doing those dumb scenes together. But anytime he interacted with anybody, and especially when he was acting with Giordano Spiro, there was just nothing, like, at all, in terms of even comedy or any kind of romance. And I think if you had a character that clicked better with the rest of the cast, this movie could be up there with those movies, of the time frame, because the story itself is something you should be able to make a pretty good comedy about.
Sure.
It's a very basic thing.
Yeah, I think you hit upon a like, on paper, putting Jeremy Piven in this movie sounds like a good idea, but I think I think a lot of improv and a lot of things that happen in this era of comedy has a lot to do with relationships offset. Yeah. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly and Step Brothers, you feel like those dudes were hanging out, after they called cut. And like, I feel like Jeremy Piven, they called cut and he went right to his trailer. He wasn't hanging out with Catherine Hahn's, like Ving Rhames. It was like, hey, maybe we could do this a little differently. And like, that rapport, I think Mark hit on something very strongly. Is like, it's a different mindset, and it's just poor. It's a poor casting choice. It's like I said, it seems great on paper. You got this guy that's kind of an asshole, but he's good at what he does, and that fits Jeremy Piven's wheelhouse to a T. That's what he did on Entourage for 9 seasons, and he was great at it. I think taking that and surrounding him with people that are more in this, communal improv mindset is a detriment to this movie. I think also, just in general, building a movie around Jeremy Piven is a bad idea. He's better as a supporting. He's a character actor.
Yeah. And you also, throughout the movie, there's so many running gags that they just beat to death and are not really funny at first. Mm-hmm. So you're already having tired jokes that are being thrown at you over and over and over. Like, they keep talking about Kirky. They keep talking about how James Brolin might be gay. You have the old Charles Napier. You have him who's an old racist guy. And it's just like, all right, well, we get it. How many times can the guy say, a homophobic slur? And I get it was 2009. And I'm not trying to sound woke here, but even in 2009, that wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie, sorry to cut you off, Mark.
That's fine.
This movie is, I'm trying to think of who directed The Joker. Todd Phillips. This is what Todd Phillips was talking about in that interview where you can't make comedies anymore.
Sure.
This is what he's talking about, because now you can't have an old guy talking about Nam and gay people. That's essentially what The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard is.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that you mentioned Todd Phillips, just because we just mentioned like that era of comedy that started with Old School, directed by Todd Phillips.
Exactly. And that's what I mean, though, because I bet you he would point to something like this and say, well, you can't say what this guy's saying now. Like, well, yeah, because that's not funny.
Yeah.
You can find other ways to be funny without having the tired cliche of the old white man, just hating on every minority he comes into contact with.
Right.
Yeah, the thing I was gonna say, the only like movie long bit that don't get beat to death is the one about the one salesman being his son. Only because I think the other actor makes it. Do
you think that worked?
No. I'm saying it gets to a point where him going, just the one point with Keckner, when he goes, I know my dad, he's in Louisiana. Like, him selling it like, what the fuck's going on here?
It was a good twist where like you think, oh, that could be his son, and it winds up not even being close. But then they probably could have just ended it there.
Yeah, they could have ended it at that scene, but then Piven has to have his moment at the end. But it was basically it shot back to me, and maybe I was wrong about it. It's just that when Jeremy Piven had to be involved with the joke, it just got beat to the ground. In terms of the having catch with him, or talking off to the side about things the kid's doing. But when the kid had to be on the other side of the bit, he seemed to give it some legs that it wasn't there. I don't know. I just
maybe.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying that in terms of what you were specifically saying was wrong. I was more saying like I felt like that was extraordinarily underdeveloped. It was like a side story that did not have any legs. Like I felt like that should have been like more of a like his chemistry, his lack of chemistry with Jordan Spiros was so bad that you could have removed that completely and had that be the story. Like like him being the son, and then him being, trying to make good with the son. And like, I was like, I don't want to say this is a better movie, but almost treat the son like they do Walton Goggins in Major League 3 Back to the Minors, where he's like this real hotshot asshole. And then he gets humbled. So like Jeremy Piven comes in and is just like, well, you're a loose cannon. You got to reel it back and do it this way.
You got to focus that energy into selling cars and not being a showman and stuff like that.
What I'm saying is there's a better father-son relationship in Major League 3 Back to the Minors than in this movie.
I mean, one has Scott Bakula in it.
Yeah, I mean, America's dad, Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
I did write in my notes that they should have eliminated the love interest, because that story is so boring. It comes out of nowhere and it elevates very quickly for no reason, and then just kind of comes to a grinding halt until the end.
I guarantee you there had to be some kind of connection, or like somebody knew somebody that was like working on her TV show on TBS at the time, My Boys, going, hey, let's put her in a movie. Let's, like an agent knew another agent or something.
Right. She's got heat. She's on a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get her in the movies.
Yeah, because she doesn't fit. I think she kind of plays along the line with some of the other girls in it during that time frame. That was before Grey's Anatomy. Never mind. I was going to say Old School with Ellen Pompeo. And Katherine Heigl in, Knocked Up. Mm-hmm. But, anyway, this proves my point. But I was going to say, she kind of fit that role of, like, up-and-coming, actress on a TV show at the time that they popped in this movie. And she hasn't done much since outside of the Ozarks.
Yeah, so. No, she had 2 seasons left of My Boys. So 2010 is when My Boys ended. So I'm sure she tried to make the jump to film. She has Trespass, which stars our favorite.
Awful.
Our favorite Nicolas Cage.
Jeez.
And Nicole Kidman.
When they called this movie also did articles, we did an episode on Trespass. We did an article on Trespass.
Yeah. There was a part where you brought up, Mark, when he's having the catch with his son, and I wrote down that scene infuriated me, because you can tell how unathletic both of those actors are. Because when Jeremy Piven goes to catch the ball, he like stabs at the ball instead of just casually catching it, and you could tell he is not used to throwing a baseball.
Sure.
And that's one of my
pets.
That's one of my
still undefeated.
Well, yeah, I mean, even Charlie Sheen could throw a baseball.
Yeah, I think they said he hit like 85 on the gun.
Yeah,
because he used to play, I think, right? I think he was. Did he play in college? I can't remember, but
At
He's
least
a college or high school. Yeah.
Yeah, he was sort of athletic. Same thing with Mr. Mustache himself, Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
He could play some ball. So
Yeah.
I hate when you have an actor who has zero sense of athleticism,
Mm-hmm.
and then they throw that in there. Like it's one of my pet peeves. I hate it.
Right. I mean, in its defense, they weren't trying to make him an athlete. They were just be like, oh, this is the cliche father-son moment.
Yeah, it wasn't Freddie Prinze Jr. in Summer Catch.
That's true. Yeah.
Man, why? You should have picked that movie, Mark.
Well, that has Ken Griffey Jr. in it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does it?
I think at the end he gets.
At the end, he
gets a home run on Freddie
run
Prinze
off
Jr.
him. Yeah.
Oh, good.
How did
Fuck
they
Freddie
feel good? What did Freddie Prinze ever do to you, Ant?
He did Summer Catch. That's for damn sure.
Well, that
I
movie.
think I know what our movie is when it comes back around to us.
Yeah, this movie is. It's not the sum of its parts. That's for sure.
No, not at all. All right. You guys want to get into the plot?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's see why not.
Dan, you got your plugs?
I do. As I've been doing for the past few weeks, I'm here to talk to you about a good friend of the podcast. We have so many friends. Our friends are growing. I love it. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the Top 10 with Tia. She is on Geek Vibes Nation. You could catch her on there. She has a weekly podcast where Tia and her crew tackle a number of entertaining topics like the top 10 movies of the year or the top 10 worst on-screen couples. This week, I think it was the top 10 movie villains. So that's a very good topic. If you have some time, check that out. You can find it on any podcast streaming service. And that's it.
Okay. We're going to take a step back to listen to a message from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. It involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more...
Or you could tell him about the time I kicked her ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell him.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about four friends separated by distance but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
Hey everyone, this is Steve.
And this is Adam.
And we're part of the Hop Nation USA podcast.
Pittsburgh's #3 craft beer podcast.
Join us every Friday for new beer reviews.
We'll talk about the news, history, and homebrewing.
Plus, we'll sit down with the best brewers and industry personalities that'll have us.
So whether you're a casual drinker, a hazy boy hophead,
or even if you're a whale hunting cellar hoarder,
just search Hop Nation USA on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher and join the nation.
Welcome back, and it's time to get into the plot of The Goods, Live Hard, Sell Hard. We've got plot. We open up on Selleck Motors in Temecula, California. It's a used car lot that has seen better days. An old car salesman with racist, misogynist views by the name of Dick Lewiston gets into a fight with a customer after telling him that he's basically a beta cuck, more or less, in 2020 terms, and that his wife should be at home popping out babies.
Yeah, and it was just one of those. It was instantly off the bat. I'm like, oh boy, is this what we're in for? Like for the whole movie.
Made you check what year this movie was made?
Immediately.
Oh shit, 2009. We're still saying the R word.
We're saying a lot of words at that point.
Then we cut to Mr. Selleck, played by James Brolin, who's owned the lot for 27 years. He's going to lose his lot to the bank by the end of the summer, so he decides to hire a mercenary. He looks up to his card and says, Don, the goods ready. And we cut to Don and his crew having breakfast at a strip club. Immediate boobs.
Yeah.
Very early.
It's crazy because when you watch this movie, and I remember thinking this in the theater, when you get boobs that quickly, you imagine you're going to see more of them throughout the film. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's the last time you see them.
Well, you do get it in the porn movies that they watch at the hotel, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I count that because that's more of like video. You're not getting like real. You're not getting boobs.
Still seeing boobs.
You are and you aren't.
I would like you to make that case in a court of law, Dan.
Sure. So, as we said, Don and his crew is having breakfast at a strip club, and we've got his crew is made up of David Koechner, Catherine Hahn, and Ving Rhames. They're a team of traveling car salesmen that have been on the road for a year and a half, and they get hired to work Selig's 4th of July sale. And they cut to the airplane, and they go through some files that have Selig Motors information on it, goes through the family, and they notice that he has a 29-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son who's also played by Rob Riggle. So put that together.
Yeah.
It's very Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
I feel like they ripped that directly from Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
Sure.
My experience was more, it felt like the beginning of every Criminal Minds episode.
When they're going over suspects.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have the file on Selig Motors. Then Don Reddy, who's an awful human being, played by Jeremy Piven, tries to smoke on an airplane. And then Kristen Schaal, who is playing a stewardess, tries to tell him that there is no smoking on airplanes, and he talks his way into getting the smoke on the plane. And fun fact, airlines outlawed smoking in 1990, and then a party breaks out, and he motorboats Kristen Schaal.
Now, I thought it would have been funnier if he does that whole speech and he's chanting USA, USA, and he goes to light up the cigarette, and Catherine Schaal?
Kristen
Schaal, she just says, well, no, you still can't do that. Because she has that kind of delivery where she would make that way funnier than if it's just like, oh, yeah, she gets motorboated. But to me, she's very underrated in terms of comedy. I think she's really funny.
She had a dry sense of humor. She was great in Flight of the Conchords.
I liked her in The Last Man. I thought she was really funny in that.
Last Man,
but yeah,
she was good.
I thought she would have been it would have been so much funnier if she was like, no, you can't do that still. And and the whole plane is like, all right, well, moving on.
Yeah,
we'll tell the writers that we could write a better movie for them.
We can do that with every writer for every movie that we review. This is how we make your movie better, and we do that.
Yeah, and I am pretty sure, probably 90% sure, that it was Jeremy Piven's call to do the motorboating.
I hope not. I hope not, because that did kind of come out of nowhere. But I really hope he asked her permission at least.
I mean, it was pre-Me Too. They might have just done it.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, slight tangent, but the whole pre-Me Too with the Adrian Brody Halle Berry moment is now seen in a completely different light.
Yep.
After Halle Berry finally was able to say the truth without being ridiculed for it.
True. Well, it's on a lighter note, Mark. I was surprised that Kristen Schaal had boobs to motorboat.
There you
go. She's not very sexualized, so like when Jeremy Piven forces himself on her, I was like, oh wow, that's a interesting surprise.
It was out of character for her.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And that might lend more to Mark's theory.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, the more it makes sense, where it's like that was just kind of Jeremy Piven going for broke.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, I'm on motherfucking Entourage.
Ari Gold, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I wonder if he took, like, I guess Neil Brennan was trying to say, like, yeah, well, like it turns into a huge party, and like, oh, well, this is how I party, and it's, not great.
I'm surprised you never see Don the Goods Already just bump lines.
I feel like that's where it would have happened, right?
Right.
He's doing a line off Kristen Schaal's chest.
Yeah. I mean, in the real world, Don Reddy would just be a huge cokehead. No?
Yeah. 100%.
I picture him more of an alcoholic.
Sure.
I would imagine David Koechner's character would be more of the cokehead, and Catherine Hahn's character is the molester, and Ving Rhames is just a cool dude.
Just like real life.
Real life, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, people around them are cokeheads, but really, the crew, more than anything, would probably be on coke.
Or, or some over-the-counter drugs.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe some Oxycontin or something like that.
Probably. Yeah, it would have probably been something more like that at the time. Coke has more gotten into fashion recently.
Mm-hmm.
Coke's always been fashionable, Mark. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, never go out of style. It's like a good pair of Vans.
Just as dangerous.
At the airport, they meet up with Peter, played by Rob Riggle, who is Mr. Selig's 10-year-old boy. And the liberal use of the R word comes up here.
Yep, very. He drops that like a hard R, man.
Yeah.
No forgiveness asked, really.
It was tough. Like even for 2009.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly stuff like that changes, though.
I was just gonna say, I think it really is telling how when we all had the same reaction where we watched this movie and as soon as he drops that R word, we're just like, ooh, bad form. You know, I think it's good for the time because, you know, if nothing had changed and he says that, we could have been laughing at it, you know, and just like, oh, he called Rob Riggle the R word. But now we understand, like, oh, well, Jeremy Piven is a jerk, and it's not Jeremy Piven's fault unless he specifically wanted to call someone that.
Yeah.
What if Neil Brennan was just like, oh, what's the matter with this guy? I was like, can I call him this word instead? I really think that's what my character would say.
Yeah, it's well, and just thinking, I shouldn't have been so surprised. The Black Eyed Peas had to change an entire song because it literally had that word in it.
Sure. Mm-hmm. That's around the same time too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sure. It's like
it was really on the cusp of like kind of people being more sensitive to that, and probably the F word as well.
Yeah.
The other F word.
Right.
We say fuck all the time on this show.
Yeah, that one's okay. We're allowed to do that one. But yeah, this movie it's weird because it could have been better, but it feels like it's something that was so far in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
It almost feels like this would have been a better movie in like the 80s.
Yeah.
Definitely an 80s movie.
Yeah, it's my thing even in real life with the use of those words there and certain other words with, you know, growing up in a very Irish Catholic neighborhood, you know, they didn't really see the badness of, you know, the F word and the R word.
Sure.
But, you know, when you asked them, they were like, my thing is I always go back, I'm like, could you make that same point without that word? Like, right. Like, do you need that word in there? You know, does it, you know, the point being like, the joke would have landed just as well if he would have called him slow.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
or like, what are you, some type of idiot or something like that? Yeah, like, something like that.
Like, yeah, it's like it's my thing, and maybe I'm naive or, you know, anything like that. Is like, I'm like, did you need to use that? Like, you know, like, it doesn't enhance the joke.
Right.
You know.
We'd have to ask Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, he probably drops that R word way more in real life.
I wonder if he even remembers this
movie. Don't be the R word.
I wonder if Jeremy Piven remembers this movie.
Probably not. Right?
This is something that was after a bad bender.
Yeah, this wasn't like where they found him at the truck stop for the Miley Cyrus movie.
He wandered onto
the goods.
Right. He wandered onto the set of The Goods and just proceeded to act. He wasn't paid at all. It was like, all right, we're gonna get a movie out of Jeremy Piven.
Nobody tell him.
You know who could have done this better? I bet Jason Sudeikis.
Sure. Yeah.
He could have been a better Jeremy Piven.
He's a good asshole.
Yes, but he's likable.
Yeah.
He's
the rocker.
That's Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson.
Right, but he plays I think he plays a radio like a studio exec.
If anyone knows anything other than Rainn Wilson being in The Rocker, I think they know too much about that movie.
I think I've seen I've seen. Oh yeah, she is, and Jonah Hill, I think.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, Josh Gad.
Yeah. Easy to mistake.
Just like Ving Rhames and Michael Clark Duncan, right, Dan?
Yeah. Well, listen, two jacked guys, right? Bald. It's very easy, all right. It's like when I shouldn't be saying, but when The Mandalorian came out and it was Carl Weathers was shown, I thought it was
Billy D.
Williams, yeah. I was talking to my boss. I was like, it's pretty cool that they got Billy D. Williams to be in it. What? Billy D. Williams? Mm-hmm. Billy D. Williams isn't in it. Like, yeah, he is. He's right here. Like, you idiot. That's Carl Weathers. Oh, I knew that. Just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, it's just in this it was. I think we're all prone to that. I mean, it's one of the best SNL skits is Dylan McDermott and Dermot Mulroney. You know, it's just sort of, it's like those character actors, tend to get confused at times. Unless if they're like Clint Howard or somebody that's really, you can go, oh yeah, that's Clint Howard. Like without even thinking about it.
I feel like Clint Howard is another guy who was born perpetually old.
Yeah. I think there's like episodes of Star Trek, like the original series that he's in, where he's like a 9-year-old and he's like a giant bald head.
Yeah.
So we have a reason for bringing that up, or we'll get to it. It didn't just come out of nowhere.
Okay, so then they meet Mr. Selleck and his daughter Ivy, played by Jordana Spiro, whom Piven has no chemistry with, but they're gonna force it anyway.
Yeah, and with Jordana, just get it out of the way early here. I always felt like I should like her, and like the stuff she's in, but it's like this movie. It's like it never really clicked. Like, yeah, My Boys is good. Like I had to talk myself into that show was actually good. And then seeing her in this, I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, no, it just never really clicked. Like she looks like she should be, a good secondary, not the lead on anything really, but yeah, she just has zero chemistry with anybody on there, and it made me realize that all the things I had seen her in had the same problem.
That's the most hideous thing I've ever seen.
I just shared a picture of Clint Howard when he was maybe 7 on an episode of Star Trek.
That is the epitome of a face only a mother could love.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That poor man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Are they
bad? What's that?
Him and Ron, are they they're full brothers, right?
They are.
Like, man.
What are those eyebrows?
The short straw at every turn.
For everything.
Yeah.
I think at one point, Ron Howard was considered like a teen heartthrob almost.
He had red hair, but he was a cute kid.
He was a good-looking kid. He was on a huge sitcom, and then, oh my God, what happened?
Were they twins, and it was just like the second twin just barely hung on, and that became Clint?
Jeez, this is bad. The listeners can't see this, obviously, so I don't know how to describe it. All right, so it's like a munchkin from The Wizard of Oz, but it's also like Frank Langella with the eyebrows.
Yeah.
Am I describing that right?
Sure. I mean,
it should be the key art for this podcast.
Look, it's the original Star Trek series, so he's got. I'm assuming that he's wearing a bald cap, but I mean, I've never seen Clint Howard with hair.
You can't assume that. You can't. Bald cap technology was not that good back then.
And yeah, I mean, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of this picture. But
I didn't click on the full thing. Is it a full size?
No, it's exactly what you see.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like Clint Howard now.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Maybe with better developed teeth.
All right, so back to the goods. Jordana Spiro, and then Selleck starts coming on to Keckner, and Catherine Hahn wants to fuck Rob Riggle, who's also a 10-year-old. So throughout this, I'm just gonna name Keckner and Catherine Hahn because I don't know what their character names are.
Neither do I. My favorite line is coming up from Ving Rhames where Catherine Hahn's talking about wanting to bang Rob Riggle's character. And he just goes, you're the adult.
Yes.
You're wrong.
Because she says, is it wrong that I wanna have sex with a 10-year-old boy? Like, well, yes, you're the adult.
I think, she's like, but he looks like he's trapped into the body of a 35-year-old man. So who's at fault here?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you're the adult. You're at fault.
Well, every funny line, I'd say 99% of the funny lines delivered in this movie are from Ving Rhames.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the MVPs of this movie are Ving Rhames and Craig Robinson.
Yes.
Craig Robinson just for one line.
But even Craig Robinson kind of his shtick gets a little old pretty quickly.
His best line is, we'll get to it because I made a note of it. It's one of the first lines he says.
An honorable mention by the cameo near the end that we'll get to.
Because I giggled for a good few minutes. And
I
even
like
on my second watch of this movie, I giggled at it too, knowing it was coming.
I actually forgot that he was in it until you brought it up.
Yeah. So they get into the car. On the ride over, we get a flashback of Don telling about his first sale when he conned a kid out of a tricycle in favor of a hoppity hip. And that's the only part of it. That's the only need for the scene that we get. And he kind of just promises that he's going to sell all the cars in the lot. We're going to get you guys back in the black. And then they check in the motel, and we check in with the team as they watch TV. Han and Keckner decide to watch porn, while Ving Rhames watches Dawson's Creek.
Yeah. And that's another great line from Ving Rhames. I mean,
yep.
I think that's probably the most famous. Yeah, it's probably the most famous line from the movie.
Yeah, he loves James Van Der Beek. That's all we need to know.
It's even funnier the second time they play it when Jeremy Piven is kind of having a flashback.
Yeah.
James Van Der Beek. Like, oh, that's pretty funny. That's a good callback.
Yeah. So Selleck then invites the team for dinner at his house. Don brings Arby's because he doesn't eat home-cooked meals, which this movie really tries to make us hate Don so much. It's such a small detail that doesn't need to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to be like, oh, well, he doesn't want to plant roots, so he doesn't like home-cooked meals. It's like, this movie could be exactly the same without this little shitty detail.
Right. Yeah. Or you don't even have to have him eating. He can even say, like, oh, I'm not used to home-cooked meals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you pick the worst fast food restaurant possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Sir, this is an Arby's.
It was like In-N-Out Burger. It would be like, all right, well, he's local in California.
Right.
It is Temecula.
Right. And it's a bad scene altogether because we do get two really terrible running gags throughout the movie. And you said you said both, I think, right? Where James Brolin wants to bang David Koechner, and then Catherine Hahn wants to bang Rob Riggle.
Yep. Yeah,
so that's two running gags. It's throughout the entirety of the movie.
Yep. Selleck comes on to Brent, and Catherine Hahn comes on to Rob Riggle. And then Paxton Harding shows up, Ivy's fiance. He's in a man band called Big Ups. He's the son of an owner of another used car dealership called Harding Motors. And the joke is that he's too old to be in a boy band. But in my notes, I say, but he's still too old for this role. But that's not true, because I did further research, and Ed Helms is only 35 when this movie was filmed. And he looks every bit of 45, I would say.
He looks really bad in this movie. He's very out of shape. I get that's supposed to be the joke that he's too old to be in a boy band, but I feel like they could have found someone way better for that role. And I think, Mark, you even said Adam Scott.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been miles ahead better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the perfect guy for that, but I don't know if he was even acting around that time. I've been thinking about through this would have been Ben Schwartz.
Yeah. You know who I was thinking of, and he would be about the same age now. Would be if this movie took place now, it would be Adam Devine or Devine.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
The guy from Workaholics.
Yep.
Yeah.
He would fit perfectly in that because he's kind of got that boyish look to him, but he's in real life he's like 36, 37. Right. So that would work in this. Like, Ed Helms looks like he's a former correspondent for The Daily Show. Which he was at this point it's like he looks like he should be in a suit and tie and selling insurance, but he's not. He's got like a weird tank top, or sleeveless t-shirt and spiky hair, and it's like
he's rocking the double chin.
Yeah,
he looks tired.
He's got a dad bod. Yeah, exactly. He's not selling us on a 35-year-old who's trying to be 22.
Right. Because I feel like Brian Callen makes sense. Like, he's older, but he's in much better shape. He has the physique to be in a band, I guess, in a boy band. Even though at that point he was probably 41, 42.
Yeah, he was over 40.
Yeah. And that's the perpetual joke with Brian Callen, is that he's an old man. Even when he's young, he was old. And they have this other blonde guy who I have no clue what his name is, but he's been in a few movies. Right? We said he was in Cabin Fever.
Yep.
and he was one of the 3 guys in the car at the beginning of Super Troopers, one of the 3 stoners. But to me, I felt like it would have been funnier if Dax Shepard was that guy.
Sure.
Because I don't even know if Dax Shepard had really been around at that point or not. But Dax Shepard is a better looking whoever that guy is.
I'm trying to find him here.
I have no clue who he is. He's a mystery man.
Yeah. But it's just he's not pulling off what the joke is supposed to be, because he just feels like he's poorly cast in that joke. He's not selling the joke, basically.
And they have another running gag where he tells people to Google them and that they open for O-Town. So they bring that up constantly.
Yeah, good old 2000 to 2002 reference there.
O-Town.
O-Town.
It's a
the other
bad
guy was
joke.
Joey Kern, who was actually only 2 years younger than Ed Helms at the time.
But they all look substantially younger.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Ed Helms is just not pulling off. He's at 34 or 35. He's not pulling off 34 or 35.
Right. It's that old joke where you have 26, 28-year-olds playing, 17, 18-year-old high schoolers. Like Tobey Maguire when he was Spider-Man, he was like 27, but he looked like he could be a high schooler. You can't even get Ed Helms to play a 30-year-old.
Ed Helms,
30-year-old.
Ed Helms looks like he should be playing someone's vice principal.
That's pretty good. What I wish they could have got like Danny McBride for that role, because he would have just like owned being 40 and playing that age. Because you could take that as like, oh, Danny McBride, you're not supposed to take anything he does seriously.
Exactly. I'm 34. I don't give a fuck.
Exactly. And he's always been out of shape not that Ed Helms has ever been jacked or anything, but Ed Helms doesn't always appear, especially when he first came into the office, he doesn't appear to be super, dad bod. He just seems to be like just normal body.
Yeah, a normal dude. But he's like we were talking off. He's 32 when he starts as Andy in the office, and that's mind blowing to me.
Right. So Ed Helms makes it onto our Mount Rushmore of perpetually old actors.
Like he doesn't even look that old now. He's still like he looks 40 in this movie. He still looks exactly like he does now. Like he's catching up to himself.
Right. Right. He froze time long enough, and now he had the one ring.
Yeah.
And then he got rid of it. Now it's catching up to him.
Yeah. So now
111 years old, and he doesn't look a day past.
So now Ed Helms looks 45, and that works for him because he's now 45.
I like the image of a Mount Rushmore of William Hickey, Clint Howard, and Ed Helms.
It's like a mountain that looks like it's melting.
Oh my God. We stole indigenous land for this? Oh my God.
We're still in the first act, guys. Let's
I know.
Button this up. The team goes to a strip club. They only go to strip club so they could hire a few dancers to work the sale as well as the DJ. And Ving Rhames opens up to Catherine Hahn about never making love to a woman. And then he, makes sure she knows that he's had sex with women, but he's never made love to them. And then Catherine Hahn admits she wants to bang 10-year-old Rob Riggle. And that's the only point of the scene. So we got the first day of the sale. Selleck gathers his team as Don psychs himself up. And so one of the lines, and I only put this down because it kind of made me laugh a little bit. At the scene at dinner.
I think I know what you're gonna say. I like this part.
Don makes an offhanded comment of saying that he's really gonna come hard, he's gonna work hard tomorrow, so you better bring your boner pants, he says. So at the scene, at the first day, James Brolin says that he wore his really tight underwear, and Catherine Hahn's like, well, I think that was just an expression.
His boner pants.
And then he's like, well, if someone tells me to wear my boner pants, I wear my boner pants. 'Cause I'm old fashioned. Someone tells me to wear boner pants, I wear my boner pants. So that made me laugh a little bit.
Just because it's James Brolin delivering that line.
Exactly. You know, Josh Brolin's dad.
Yeah, Josh Brolin, right? Thanos himself.
So as Don gets ready, then Catherine Hahn comes up and addresses the dealers, tells a story about her killing the guys that killed her boxer boyfriend, and then we find out that it's completely made up, so it's a complete waste of our time.
And again, Ving Rhames is the best part of it.
Yeah, where he's
Just
kind of
singing in the background.
Yeah,
singing back up for it. Then David Koechner comes up, addresses them, and he talks about the time he sold the car to MC Hammer, so that MC Hammer could then sleep in it.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Then
Don shows up and tells a patriotic speech that causes everyone to beat up Ken Jeong in a hate crime. Then he negotiates him out of calling the police, which is kind of a weird moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really didn't need to be in there.
Yeah. Because Piven doesn't really sell it. Like, I can't tell if he's being like sarcastic about taking this hate crime that they just committed seriously, or he's not it's just weird for Don to take it so seriously.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. Yeah. And they didn't need to have that.
As much as I know we shit on Jeremy Piven, I wonder if it's just him reading this was just uncomfortable reading this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. It's just a weird scene in general.
I'm sure Ken Jeong was ecstatic when he saw this.
Yeah. So they set up the lot for the day. The DJ, the dancers show up. This is the one line that I think Craig Robinson kind of takes this movie is David Koechner yells out to Craig Robinson, who's a DJ. He's playing on the roof. He's like, "Oh, why don't you liven the place up, play some Charlie Daniels?" So he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll play that," and immediately plays a different song. And then he just yells out, "Nobody tells DJ Request what to play." I think it's a pretty good line.
But the problem is they kill it too quickly, right?
Sure.
Because they constantly ask him to play something and he does the exact opposite. You know, it's funny. It's really funny the first time because you're not expecting it, and the way he talks to himself like he's like a man possessed. Mm-hmm. But then they keep doing it, and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that's all I needed. That's all I needed from DJ Request was just that line, and then they never had to address him ever again.
Exactly. And even if you wanted to do, like you said, the voiceover work during the brawl, that's funny too. Him giving the play-by-play, I like that because it's different, but it's not always like, hey, play this. Oh, yeah, you got it, man, and then play something completely different.
So they open up and we have a montage of people looking at cars. Seems like a pretty successful day. They con some people too, including some woman that brings in a like a Craigslist ad basically about a cheaper car. And then Selleck mentions that they have one of the cars, so Smokey and the Bandit, on the lot. And then we learn that a young salesman at Selleck might be Don's kid, which is a side story that doesn't really get wholly developed. But by the end of the day, they sell 71 cars that day of the 211 that are on the lot. Mark?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where I thought they could have stretched that bit out a little bit longer. And just had him just keep accidentally saying things. Like they basically could have took pieces of this first scene, like basically saying, oh, my dad wasn't around. Okay, next time they run into each other, oh yeah, she said it was some deadbeat that just left after this. Okay, could still be. How old are you? Like 3 scenes later, it comes up. Like they chunked it all into this one thing where they could have played that out through the movie. And then just had the moment with him and Koechner near the middle part of the movie. They could have played that more near the end, and still had the great moment with Koechner and him at the end, where he hits him, telling him just to go with it. Would have played better if this was more spaced out.
Yeah, he kind of automatically immediately thinks, oh, that might be my kid.
Yeah.
So
because he does the 2-gun salute to heaven.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah. So Don kind of congratulates everybody. Job well done. Sold 71 cars that day. He announces that the next day, American Idol's Bo Bice's brother is going to come perform, which is a completely dated reference.
Very dated. Yeah.
They really were hanging their hat that Bo Bice was going to be a bigger thing.
Yeah. Bo Bice in O-Town.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in the scene, we also see that Ving Rhames is starting to fall for one of the dancers, played by Noreen DeWolf. So I don't disagree with that there, Ving Rhames.
Nope.
No, yeah, that was he makes all the best moves in this movie, man. Like he has his head on straight.
Yeah, and he delivers every line with this coolness, like when he's explaining how he's never made love to a woman, then explaining all the ways he's had sex with women.
Yeah.
And just the way he's explaining it to Catherine Hahn, and he's doing in other parts of the movie where he just delivers the lines like in a cool way, not trying to do a wink and a nod.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's playing the character exactly how you feel that character would be in real life.
It's full sincerity from Ving Rhames.
He doesn't need to try to do any of that stuff to be cool. You know what I mean? It's just like he's a badass. It's him, Samuel L. Jackson, like Denzel Washington. Those guys don't need to try to be cool when they deliver lines. It just leaps out of them essentially. So if like you need something awesome said, those are your guys. You want them to say it. If you want someone to talk about having a menage a trois, whatever he says he does, like Ving Rhames can do that, and you believe, like, I believe, and I'm sure he's had very, very, very many menage a trois, because again, he's just awesome. But that's the good part about Ving Rhames in this movie. He's not trying. It's just,
what was it, 69 to 80,
112,
114.
It's just so good. It's so cool, and there's no effort
all
on
without a
his part.
wink. You know.
No, yeah, that's like, I mean, he would later go on to star in like Piranha 3D, which is like, again, with just the same sincerity and just playing it straight. That's Ving Rhames. He's not gonna wink at the camera. He's gonna play his character the way it's supposed to be played, which is great.
Yeah, he's a national treasure.
Yeah. So then Paxton shows up with his dad from Harding Motors, and it's Alan Thicke.
Yes.
That's a good cameo.
Yeah. Never see Alan Thicke in a movie.
Right.
Was this during the I don't want to say like the Alan Thicke Renaissance? Would this have been when he was also on How I Met Your Mother, or was that later?
I feel like that was later.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that was later.
Yeah.
So Harding, played by Alan Thicke, offers to buy Selig's lot to open up rehearsal space for Big Ups, which is Paxton's boy band. And Selig excuses himself for a moment to talk to Harding, and then he up and sells the lot to Harding. And then Don refuses to let that go, so he says he'll make a bet with everybody. If he sells all the cars on the lot by the end of the sale, Selig doesn't sell. But if he doesn't, he'll quit selling cars. They could go do the sale, and they'll offer up Keckner's character to Selig to have sex with. And that's the linchpin for Selig to be like, all right, you're on.
Right.
Because it's 2009.
Well, he talks about how it's a dead marriage, Selig.
Yeah.
And like he goes cruising for men, but he's like, some people call it companionship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They don't know how to really make it funny.
Yeah. No, it's just uncomfortable. I don't think it's looking at it from a 2020 lens. I just think it's just awkward. Like I think in 2009, we're probably sitting there in the theater. I was like, all right, cool.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of plot threads that really don't need to be in this movie. Right. His son, James Brolin wanting to nail David Koechner.
Yeah.
You don't need to have either of those in this movie. And it probably doesn't suffer.
It feels like all the bits that feel like they were written script bits don't work, and all the moments we talk about and like seem to be the scenes that would probably be ad-libbed.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I think this movie falls apart, is all the structured moments in it are awful, or terribly paced, or a combination of the two. But all the one-off moments, or the times where they probably kept the camera rolling and just like I go back to the Ving Rhames scene, like he just keeps adding all that stuff, and I could just see like they just kept the camera rolling, and he just had to keep coming up with different, terms for sexual things he did.
Yeah.
And all that stuff works and hits. And I think as we're talking through this, I think that's where the disconnect is.
Sure.
Is, the structure of the movie does not complement the ad-libbing.
Sure. So the team goes to karaoke to celebrate, and not much really happens in the scene. Don sings Turn the Page terribly. Ving Rhames tells Ivy about something from Don's past that they call Kirky, and they mention it happened in Albuquerque. And then Captain Kirk is one of the
nicknames for Albuquerque.
Yeah, nicknames for Albuquerque. Then Catherine Hahn feeds a 10-year-old liquor. And that's basically all that happens in the scene. So day 2, they start the morning off with watching a commercial that they were able to pull together at some point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that.
Sometime.
Yeah, this would be something for you being in that industry before of how they pulled this together.
Yeah, I mean,
shot it, edited it, and sold
graphics.
it.
They even had graphics in it. In like 2 hours.
Like PowerPoint graphics, but still.
Yeah. And the whole commercial is basically Selleck telling people to come down because he's about to die, which seems to backfire, which is interesting because the mood on the lot is really dour when people come. It's basically a funeral for Selleck, and nobody's buying cars. And, you know, this is one play that I guess Don really wasn't expecting. But the crowd shows up for Eric Bice, Bo Bice's brother. But unfortunately, Bice doesn't show up because he has adult chickenpox. So Don takes it upon himself to sing, but he's a terrible singer. And then Dick, the old racist car salesman, starts a riot, and the cops have to come, and he gets, a summons for inciting a riot. Then Don rebounds with new sales offers based on the riot that he announces live on the local news. And meanwhile, Ving Rhames gets himself a date with Heather the stripper, and Don has a catch with Blake. Blake tells him he doesn't give a shit about his father because his father ditched him and must be pretty much a loser for leaving him and his son and his girlfriend behind.
Wink, wink. You get it, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Ivy pleads with Don to tell her what happened in Albuquerque, and it turns out he killed McDermott, his best friend, by giving him a bag of dildos when he was supposed to give him a parachute.
And it is the best part of the movie.
This is the funniest part of the movie. Because we
I
go
do like how it's a President's Day sale, and McDermott is dressed up as Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. I freed the slaves, now I'm going to free those cars from high prices.
So this is the Will Ferrell cameo, and it's 100% the funniest part of the movie. This is the part that just had me laughing to myself to the point of crying.
But then again, it's another Wedding Crashers ripoff, right? Because you get Will Ferrell in that cameo.
Sure.
And he's very funny. I mean, obviously, Wedding Crashers as a whole is a very funny movie, but it's playing off of that that same shtick. Like, oh, we got Will Ferrell in a bit role.
Yeah, it's really fucking stupid, but it's hilarious. Like there's also a John Wilkes Booth line. I don't even remember how that went, but that was pretty funny.
Like I'm gonna come from behind them and blast them in the head or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's a weird line.
And then he's like, he realizes that he's got a bag full of dildos in his back, and he's like, most people have their regrets flash before their eyes, but I'm going to talk about how all the good things that I did. It's like a full back tattoo of the Hawaiian Punch guy, 100% real fruit juice, motherfuckers. that had me rolling.
I like the line he says where he's like, I'm gonna take this dildo and get into an aerodynamic pose and bounce off of it
and break my fall.
But Mark, to your point, that entire scene is 100% ad-lib.
Yeah.
Right. Like they put him in a green screen and they're pretending to drop him, and they just say, all right, just whatever comes to your mind, roll.
Right. Yeah.
I started cracking. I started cracking up at the there's that dildo again.
Like I would love to see the stuff that I didn't put in. Like I think I just miss laughing at something Will Ferrell did.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah, I hope, and I was thinking of it this the other day after I was watching this, because my father-in-law hates Will Ferrell, and I was like, how can you hate Will Ferrell? He's a funny guy. But eventually, all three of us will get to the age where an actor will come along where we say that. There will be a Will Ferrell for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless if it's not happened already.
If it hasn't, I'm sure obviously there are actors that we all dislike, but at one point, when we have kids or whatever, I'm like, I'm going to go see the new such and such movie. Like, oh, that fucking guy, he sucks. Well, no, he's funny, man. You don't get it, Dad. You're not cool anymore. I used to be cool. I used to be with it. But now I don't know what it is, and what it is scares me.
It is 100% a YouTube.
And it'll happen to you.
Yeah.
No, man. No way, man. We're going to keep on rocking forever. Forever.
I'm glad we got that in there.
Yeah, gotta get that one, Simpsons.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark. We just kind of steamrolled you so we could get that out.
Yeah,
I let it happen.
That one was kind of a deep pull. I don't know how we worked it in, but we did.
It works. It'll fly.
But yeah, it's the scene, and even the scene where he comes back as the angel was kind of funny. But the initial scene of seeing him, I remember in the theater laughing after seeing, like, oh, it's Will Ferrell. That was definitely the driving point of this movie, or the selling point, I should say.
So then, meanwhile, while he's having that conversation, Blake tells David Koechner that he knows who his father is, and it's not Don. And Koechner basically tells him, no, just to pretend for Don's sake that you're his son. At the end of the night, DJ Request won't stop playing, so they turn the power off on him, and he gets kind of pissed, but nothing really comes out of it.
He makes the declaration that he's homeless.
Yeah.
Which, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So at night, back at the motel, we get two sex scenes. Between Ving Rhames and Heather, which is the relationship I care more about, which I shouldn't, and then Ivy and Don.
Yeah. And just the delivery between Heather and Ving Rhames' character when they both come to the realization that they both want the same thing.
Yeah. Making love is boring.
Yeah. My safety word is blueberry pancake.
Yeah, that part made me laugh. Just the way he says it. Like, my safety word is blueberry pancakes. He's so giddy when he says it. He's so happy to do it. It's not just like, oh, here's my safe word, blueberry pancakes. Like, no, he's about to get it on, and blueberry pancakes.
Mm-hmm. And Ivy and Don have sex.
And it's boring. It's white people boring sex.
So day 3 comes, and we've got 105 cars left on the lot. Next morning, Ivy basically says that she just used Don for one last fling. So he has a hissy fit and storms off. At the dealership, a real defeatist attitude hangs over the lot because Don's not there. But they rally together, and they get themselves pumped up to sell some cars with the help of Ken Jeong, kind of leads that. And Don wanders into a junkyard and finds either the ghost of McDermott or his hallucination. And McDermott basically tells him to fuck off with a couple of singing angels.
This is real good.
Yeah. What's the one line? Like, you couldn't have said that in a more sing-songy way. Like, no.
The way he dies.
The way he dies.
Choking on a sausage patty in a strip club.
I'll see you in 27 years.
That's when you're going to die. 27 years. How do I die? Yeah, choking on a sausage patty.
August 19th, 2034.
And I watched it on August 19th. I watched this movie.
Wow, there you go.
That's pretty weird. But I do like the line when he's like, you couldn't make that into a song. Like, no, we tried on our spaceship down to Earth.
From heaven.
Our spaceship from heaven.
And also, we forgot to mention that Will Ferrell has like a Lemmy mustache going. He has like the mutton chops going into the stash.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous, but it looks so funny. It works for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it because he was doing the Abraham Lincoln thing?
I don't think so, because Abraham Lincoln didn't have that kind of facial hair. He just had the
opposite,
beard.
Right?
Yeah, he had the beard. But he didn't have the mutton chops going into like he wasn't a metal rock star, right. Abraham Lincoln. As far as I know.
He was a vampire hunter. So.
I didn't know if he was a headbanger or not.
Right. So he tells Don basically, get off the road because it's pathetic at this point. You're in your 40s, and then Don gets an epiphany that he needs to help his team. So he runs off. But then we get a montage of the team selling cars, and they manage to sell all the cars on the lot. And Don finds an airport and parachutes into the lot after they've sold all the cars, and they celebrate. And he's very proud of everybody. And Harding and his son show up and say they haven't sold the Bandit car, so they lose the bet. But then Don, being the car salesman he is, manages to smooth talk Paxton into buying the bandit car for his band. He knocks it down from $200,000 to $80K. Then Paxton breaks up with Ivy because he needs to carpe diem, and Don decides to stay in Temecula with Ivy. And then we get postscript. Yeah, with his son, which isn't his son.
Yeah.
He says, I'm like 6 inches taller than you, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite part of the end with the pull away is when they pull away and show that last car that they pushed out of the lot sitting there broken down. Like,
it's on two donuts.
Yeah. That made me chuckle when they pull it out and they show that final car was just broken down.
I realized while Ant was saying how Jeremy Piven needed to go help, he had the epiphany to go help his team. You could remove Don the Goods Ready and nothing would have changed during that sale. He doesn't do. I think he does one thing where he pretends to be a different. He pretends to be a salesman from another dealership.
Oh, the Silence of the Lambs joke. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the only thing he really does to help sell a car.
Yeah. I mean, it's all a montage, so.
Yeah, maybe he does more, but from what the viewer sees,
right,
he's not really integral to selling any cars. The others do more.
Yeah.
So he's not
more of a supervisor, really.
I guess.
He's letting them do the things.
Yeah. Isn't there? Oh, it's Indiana Jones, where they say you could remove Indiana Jones and that movie still plays out the way it does.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Because the Nazis still get the Ark of the Covenant. They still take it to the island.
Yeah, and they open it and they all die anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that does make sense. I was going to say, well, I thought Indiana Jones was like integral to Indiana Jones.
No,
but I guess not.
The whole plot of that movie, basically, he doesn't stop them. So if he never arrives, everything plays out the same way.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Anyway.
I got to tell you guys, throughout the half of this podcast, I've just had Clint Howard staring at me.
I closed that immediately.
Yeah, I don't know how to close it. And this alien baby, Clint Howard, has just been mouth agape. It's like he wants
busted-ass teeth.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to talk to me and just tell me things aren't going to be okay.
It looks like he's in pain.
Right.
It's like my teeth are all fucked up. I can't chew.
How did he be? I don't understand how he became an actor at all.
Yeah.
Even with his brother having so much pull, I don't know how a casting director could say, yeah, you'll do.
Well, he's in a lot of Ron's movies, so.
He's like the epitome of the coach being your dad. Right?
Okay. But it also, the look helps when you need to have a standout, like a memorable character actor, like a memorable background character.
I don't get it. Yeah. I don't get it.
If he looked like plain all-American boy, you wouldn't remember the name of the actor that was in Apollo 13,
Mm-hmm. Well, I promise you I'm not going to forget this face tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point when you're hiring character actors, is they have to, it was my old saying, is that they are the foundation for the movie. Is that if your leads, with this movie proves that you can have a mediocre movie with a terrible lead if everybody else around it is really good.
Yeah.
But you can't really have vice versa, at least in my opinion. And Clint Howard is probably the most famous of those type, and it might just be because he's been in Ron's movies, and Ron has made a lot of big movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Essentially, but Stanley Tucci's another one of them.
I would make this movie better by putting Clint Howard.
Yeah.
I would make him one of the salesmen.
Yeah, you could easily make him
I would make him a salesman who has not sold a single car in 30 years of selling cars.
He's like Gil?
He's Gil, yeah. He's essentially Gil from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
He has to bring his cubicle.
How would you make this movie better? Was it just Clint Howard?
I would put Clint Howard in it. He would have a fake family, because there's the scene where, who is it? David Koechner is telling who is it?
Tony Hale.
Tony Hale, that he needs to have skinny kids instead of the fat kids, like his normal kids.
Yeah.
Like, no, you need skinny kids in there because it drives home the point that you have to feed them. Yeah. And then you have the fat wife to make you feel sorry for the guy. But I would have just Clint Howard with a fake family. Like, he carries around the family. Like, oh, your cute kids. Like, oh, they're not real. Those aren't. I just have a fake family.
Yeah. Yeah. If we're actually replacing him with people in the movie, that would be the guy I'd swap Clint Howard out for.
Yeah, because Tony Hale really doesn't do much. He has a few lines, but he's not very memorable. Let's see. I'd get rid of the love interest plot because that really doesn't go anywhere. If anything, I want to keep the could be my son, could not be my son storyline. And let's see. I mean, I think we kind of came to the conclusion that we would kind of swap out a better cast with some of the people here. Other than that, I don't know if I would have it where maybe Jeremy Piven is going up against who he thinks his son is instead of going up against Ed Helms.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he has to, like he's trying to reconnect with his kid, and his kid's a real dickhead to him. So he tells him he's going to outsell him. And the kid's, like, oh, you don't got the moves, old man, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out he still does. He's kicking his ass. But then he kind of takes it easy on him. He pulls back at the end and lets his son sell the bandit car.
Sure. To
kind of just, like, reconnect with him. So maybe, like, you make it where that is his kid instead of it just going nowhere. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good way. And I would probably get rid of the whole molesty thing with Catherine Hahn and Rob Riggle, because that just even in 2009 that really doesn't play well.
Yeah. I think to your point, maybe there's more of like a rivalry between Harding Motors and these guys, Selleck. So maybe his son works for the other guys, and the bet is that we could sell more cars than you guys can.
Sure. Yeah, I would buy that. Right. Yeah. Like the son works for Harding Motors. Yeah. That makes way more sense than Ed Helms being in a boy band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of the obvious bits and all and jokes to take out that just wouldn't fly or shouldn't have even flown back then.
You would make it longer, right?
Yeah. As always, I would add 20 minutes to it because that's what I do. But essentially, I think half of this movie's problem is Jeremy Piven. I think if you replace him with a better actor that has more chemistry with the cast, you get at least a movie that everybody's like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. It has some shit in it, but, that was before me, too. You could get away with it if it was a better lead in there. But since it's Jeremy Piven, everybody doesn't like Jeremy Piven, and he has no chemistry at all with this cast. It just makes it a bottom tier one of those comedies. And I think instantly, even at the time, just switching, you could even swap, I don't know if he would do the cameo as well, but even if you flip Will Ferrell and Jeremy Piven, the movie's instantly better, for this. And I think that's the easiest change, and the rest of it is just essentially, what time period you're showing this in, what kind of jokes you think you can get away with, or, stuff like that. And also, I would like writers to have more time trying to figure out these bits instead of looking like they wrote them on set that day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I think the main problem here is Jeremy Piven. He just doesn't gel with everybody else. I think we've already mentioned a few people that could probably gel a little bit better. Adam Scott's a really good answer. I still say Bradley Cooper probably could have done it. Yeah, I think he's just not. It's on, like I said, on paper it makes a lot of sense. He's playing basically Ari Gold, but he's just not. The tone is different than Entourage. It's in a different world, in a different universe than Entourage. So while everybody else is just playing the dummies and being weird, he's just playing Ari Gold. So it's just not working. It just doesn't mix. That's really it. You guys want? I guess this is kind of wrapping it up. You guys want to plug your shit?
Yeah, absolutely. You know the drill. At Diaquino122 on Twitter. Follow me there. Follow our Real Play D&D podcast at Stranger Damies on Twitter and at Stranger Damies on Instagram.
Yep, and then Stranger Damies airs every Wednesday. There'll be a episode up tomorrow. As with during the quarantine, it'll probably be up a little later than usual. Usually around noon or so, since I have a little more time to not rush it. And and plus, what else you got to do during the day? You don't need a podcast at 9 a.m. Anymore.
Fuck you.
Fuck you guys. Let me get some sleep. So yeah, and we stream over at the Game Ball Pod. That podcast is every other Monday. We just had one up on Monday. So feel free to check that out. I'll be streaming on Thursday, and we'll be streaming on Sunday. Just stay tuned to the Twitter, Game Bolt Pod, with all the schedule updates as we figure out if we're able to do other days of the week. 2 of us in the group are going through, updating computers through the quarantine. So things will be up in the air for now. But just be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, we're on Instagram for both Stranger Damies and the Game Ball Pod. So feel free to send any animations, fan art, anything of things that go on in those podcasts.
Okay, great. And this is They Called This a Movie. You can find us at theycalledthisamovie.podbean.com. We're also on themaindamie.com is our main website. You can find us on all podcast streaming apps by just searching They Called This a Movie. So look for that. We should pop right up. Find us on all social media at The Main Damie. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for The Main Damie and we should pop right up. We are also a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. They're on all social media platforms at Geek Vibes Nation. Just look for that. They should pop right up. Their main website is gbnation.com, but podcast streaming is also just Geek Vibes Nation. They got a bunch of great shows. We mentioned Tia's show. We also got Geek Vibes Live that Dan has popped up on, Scene and Nerd, bunch of other great shows that they have under their umbrella. Check those guys out. Check us out. If you have time, if you have iTunes, please rate and review us. It helps us out a great deal. And that's the pitch. If you got any ideas for movies that we should watch, hit us up at themaindamie@gmail.com or on Twitter. Twitter's the best place to get a hold of us. That's at themaindamie. We're the most active there. I am at AntElvec on Twitter. And this has been The Goods: Live Hard, Sell Hard, directed by Neil Brennan. So, for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Del Vecchio telling Neil Brennan to go fuck himself.